What is it?
So that some title bill
Good
has
enough reaction.
Oh.
so many words on
He
it.
really likes it that way, I believe. I'm just teasing.
But he is,
He's got all three of them.
in the city and county.
I thought he was gonna be here.
Yeah.
Get him a second nameplate, it's gotta run over.
Little hard.
I saw Tiff on her way. No, she didn't. I passed her crossing past, because I was in that one, and I had to walk all the way back to the other one, and I told her that they had actually said to get it out of your handbook right now. Just everybody has to do this because of everything that's happened and transpired. You take it out and make it a separate document. It's a single page that's readable. And you make yeah, which that's, he was an attorney talking about how you should just throw what theirs away, make yours, make it so, because it's gonna be based on the size of your town, on, you know, what pertains to your group. Okay? You're gonna wanna use the wording and verbiage, but how are you gonna alter it? You pull it out as a single page document, and then you get that person, as soon as they're hired, you sit there and you go, okay, this is what we have. I'd like you to read this over, paraphrase it back, or however, you know, make sure you understand what it says. And then if you agree with this and you can abide by this, then sign it. And then that way it's a separate thing that can be usable on its own. So I came away with that as being probably one of the most important things. It's so simple.
Do that right away.
So simple.
We have a confidentiality agreement and then another one too that are separate documents.
Yeah. And that one, but you didn't use their verbiage for definition. Sources, whoever your insurance is, sources, yeah. And oh, don't use their definition of what the legal definition is, and then define it for yourself. For your town. So, yeah, that's important.
You're over here with the very long title. We were talking Police is coming at 7. Who's that? Oh. No.
Well, I think he really wasn't feeling good. I think he really wasn't.
Was he there?
Okay, so, as the old boards are aware, and we're starting through with, we've had a lot of other issues this year. And so, before we can really delve into our operating costs and our next budget and second. All right, we'll try to look at the PowerPoint again. grant management and the restoration of the Carnegie Building, and then future library operations, funding sources, and responsibilities. Which is a lot. And this is the structure of the library, the Silverton Public Library as it stands now. The town board appoints the library board, of which the mayor is the chair. The library board has ownership of the building. The town board provides all the funding for the operations of the library and is currently providing all the general maintenance and operations of the building and carrying the liability, the insurance, both for the building and the employees. So in 2018, the town has taken these steps to rehabilitate the Carnegie Building. We were awarded a state historic fund planning grant, which is on your agenda tonight, whether or not to accept. We have applied, or will be applying, it's also on the agenda tonight, for a DOLA planning grant. We spoke directly with Christy Doom, DOLA, and we can use the funds from this planning grant to match the state historic fund grant, and the funds from the historic grant to match the planning grant, so we wouldn't be out anything. So that's another $17,000 going towards this project. Then the town acquired the modular building and is going to put about $30,000 of unbudgeted funds into the installation of the infrastructure for that modular building.
Michelle, what is the IAF?
Energy Impact Assistance Fund. And these are some of the maintenance and repairs that we addressed last year and this year on the library. All going into, well, this is all coming out of the general fund. With town staff.
What do you mean by that statement? What's coming out of the general fund?
The cost for all this maintenance and repair.
Cost of maintenance, okay.
And the personnel hours.
Yeah. Because the building's already been set, correct?
Right, and some of this list is not just the new modular building, we're talking about the ventilation and the cleanup down in the other building, the testing, yeah. And this is the amount of money, put into the modular building and planning grants on the town's end. Now, if we get the DOLA grants, which we're pretty much guaranteed, of course they say that, and they did promise it. Then that will cover that $17,000 difference. So we're actually doing a pretty good job, and we put a pretty good effort of teamwork to making sure that this building gets the restoration it needs and that we have a functional library in the meantime.
So what is the cost sharing? You have
So that was the agreement with the
Friends of the
Friends of the
Library?
so now we'll just go into looking at some of the past, financial statements from the library. The green bar, the letter green bar. Is, general expenses. And the blue bar, which you start to see rise in 2016, 2017, is a remaining fund balance. So that's been accumulating, and I don't know how that was done in the past, but I suspect because in the years prior to my being here, there is no fund balance, so I'm guessing whoever was doing the budget at that time was transferring any excess balance back to the general fund at the end of the year. But I don't know that for sure. But we do have a little bit of a fund balance sitting in the library fund.
So that 18,000, eventually, if we were growing, we can use that for matching
So
grant.
that's a question for the board. I mean, we can leave it there, and yes, I could even transfer it to where the library fund, like all the other funds, has its own CIP line. So I could transfer it to that line, and we can just grow a savings account, and one in this case, we're gonna use it anyway, right? Or it could transfer back to the general fund, and we do have the issues also of the general fund. I mean, we're gonna be paying regardless this year. So I guess prioritizing what you think that extra balance might be best for, is it best for going back to the general fund and covering it, and then if not, we'll be able to make that determination just yet? Or, should we just leave it sitting there and build it as a savings? And I do wanna point out this, Tiffany and Lauren and I met with Patrick and Christy Adola, and talking about specifically the state assistance to come in here and analyze our finances, our current finances and our long-term trends, because recovery from an economic crisis like this is going to be long-term. And we want to be in as best shape and as well prepared as we can be. So grateful to have state assistance to come in and do that. So I would expect them at any time. So before we were making really hard decisions about, moving money or things like that, I would really like to get them in here and look at it. But that is an option.
Okay, so hypothetical on that.
Right. Something to think about. That's
Yeah.
what we do for this.
But 18,000, what are we gonna need for matching grants, and we just ballpark? Do you need $1 million worth of work? Do you need $1,000 worth of work? What kind of future outlay are we looking at?
We need probably $750,000.
Okay.
Match that at 25%,
So it's
each time,
Yeah, matching.
each $200,000 grant. Well, it's a weird formula, but it's basically just say 25%.
So it would say hypothetically come in, it would be a 4-year project possibly, at a 200 to
200,000 max for each improvement grant from the State Historic Fund.
And then the match would be 25,000. Each year, 25,000.
Unless we can really move and hit 2 cycles at once,
Okay.
which you can do, but.
And talk about these So our work session, I mean, you do a pointless board as well. If you take input, if you have it.
Well, you say open up communications with the library board. We haven't even been notified that we got the grant. My question is, who is supposed to notify the library board that we are to be mentioned or discussed at town meetings, that we do get these grants? I have not received an email or anything. So I do agree that we do need to open up communication.
Nasty.
Sure.
I would, like to at this time, because we just found out about the grant. And we have, yeah, and we're meeting tonight, and we have some serious issues. And, we would hope that the board would consider, before you make any decisions tonight about who will be running the project, we would hope that you would have a work session with the library board so that we can explain to you what we have been facing and why we are in this situation. It's gotten to a point now where if you guys make decisions tonight without the library board, I think the Friends of the Library will pull out of any kind of matching funds and not be part of the project. And the library board will not.
As far as, for the library board, what we should prefer as far as a work session for timing for you guys, I know that you guys have regular meetings. Would you prefer that the town board try to schedule a work session during those meetings so we can come meet with you guys during your regular meetings? Would that be?
It's up to you guys. I mean, our meeting, I know that the mayor can't come to our meeting this week. Our meetings are usually the third Thursdays of the month, but we are having one this Thursday at 3 o'clock at the library. But if that doesn't work for you guys, we can meet. It's just, I really think it's imperative for the community and the library that we can all get together and make decisions, or at least let you, and especially the new board members, kind of understand what's been happening in the last 2 years. But it's up to you. We don't control that.
I would hate to lose the $10,000 because Friends have basically offered to the town. I think we need to do that. I think we need to have a meeting of the library board.
And that's the 28th.
2 p.m.
And if that time doesn't work, you can try later, whatever. And that's just usually when we do it. It's very important that you guys come, and so we will work with you as best we can.
And just to ask a question about where we are as far as, say, safety, in the existing structure, in the existing library. Could someone update
Bill.
us on that?
I'm sorry.
Safety.
Just safety on the existing building, safety as far as allowing people in the building and where that is and,
As-
in the future, what we're looking at is, I know this modular, but could we reiterate that full?
Sure. As of currently, we haven't had any warnings from the local health person. Searcher came in, they wanted some positive air in the upstairs, creating negative air downstairs so that the main floor was usable, and that's what we're using. The basement is off limits, everybody knows that, no one's using the basement. We have another issue in the basement we have to address that's probably been there for a lot longer than any of us wish, but we know we have to address a sewage issue at some point in the future, and that would be part of a major renovation project. But at this point in time, we're at a, quote, hold in place, stand in place kind of a deal. That being said and done, because we've had such a dry winter, and so far no heavy rains this summer, just the gut is that the mold isn't getting worse because we haven't had anything to make it worse. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be. We would be subject to a SERSA inspection at some point in time. Their adjuster could come down and do a reinspection, do a remold count. And obviously at that point we wouldn't have any idea what would happen. But if they could at any time make a determination and say it's not safe, and we wouldn't have anything to say about that. I, at this point, have no concern with where it's at, but we're not moving forward, and there's no chance of moving forward, but more than likely, ultimately, we could be slowly slipping backwards. But I think a point that needs to be made, and I'm pretty confident the library board knows this, is, and this is difficult because I'm not authorized to do any kind of mold inspection or have anything to do with that. I'm a building inspector and a code enforcement officer. But there's liability issues here that are involved that aren't covered by insurance, and the members of the library board could be held personally responsible for something that would occur if somebody said they got sick because of what's in there. And even though our insurance company is saying, hey, there's no issue, that wouldn't prevent that issue from coming up with a sickness claim or a liability claim or something like that. So it's just like you guys, you guys have emissions and something insurance, but you're not covered for everything that you could potentially do incorrectly. There is no screw-up insurance, quote unquote, and there's no, if someone came in and said, Bill, do you know there's mold in that building? I would say yes, and we've had it monitored and we've had it registered and it's been okay to use this floor, and here's what we're doing to compensate for it in the attic and in the basement, okay? But it still doesn't prevent somebody from coming in and saying, quote, I've had an issue being on this first floor here. So ultimately, we don't want to procrastinate moving forward. That being said and done, I think everybody knows we've moved this temporary building, or interim modular building that we received for free from Bayfield. We may get him $1 yet. That's still in a negotiation process between me and another guy I'm trying to get for free. But it may cost us $1. But at any rate, he's a great guy. Anyway, we've got it in place. I was out there with Mark and John today. We are moving forward. As you saw Michelle's slide, the town of Silverton is going to completely pay for getting that building up to ADA compliant, and that requires rewiring part of it because it was a 1990 building and the wiring that was in it didn't meet the codes that we need to have today. So the electrician and that contract is going to bring it up to date. And so I'm hoping, and we're working with John and the town crew, and we're trying to do all this in-house to save as much money as we can. We hope to have it ready Labor Day. That's just our goal. I think that's obtainable, but you never know how much it's going to rain and all this kind of stuff. What does that mean? We're going to skirt it, we're going to paint it, we're going to retrim it, we're going to have the carpet down, we're going to clean the inside, it'll have running water, ADA compliant bathroom, ADA compliant front entrance and a door for a wheelchair. And basically at that point, it would be up to the library board and the library and you guys to make a decision where to go from there. But I'm going to do my darndest to follow that time frame and have that building available for whatever use anybody determines it to be.
Bill, do you think there's extra costs associated from the spreadsheet that we saw from Michelle earlier? Or do you think that's fairly complete as far as our budget for what it's going to cost to get the modular building up and running?
Oh, you mean that estimate we threw up there? We all did our best to estimate as accurately as we can. I wouldn't want you to say, hey, well, we've spent, $2,800 on this and $3,100. In other words, we've rounded these numbers off, but we're pretty cautiously optimistic that we're going to have this building in place and ready to go for $30,000. Okay. And of which you guys are approving the biggest hunk of that tonight, which is accounts payable, and that was a transportation cost.
Yeah.
So, and John really, he's not here, so I don't want to say too much nice about him, but he basically threw the guys on it and said that they would take care of all of it if I took care of certain parts. And Mark's doing some design work on it, which kind of exceeds his parameters, but we're going to trust him on that. And we're going to make this thing ADA compliant. and that's where Mr. Revis comes in, because he really knows that stuff well.
You know, we know that people can sue for anything. I mean, if you sue
Sure,
about having
sure,
revenues coming out
sure,
of the stairs.
we all know that.
How often does CIRSA check?
You know, I apologize, but John was the guy that really was driving on that, okay? And he had the guy up here with him. They did it 6 months ago, roughly?
Less than that.
Less than that.
Recently. I mean, within the last 3 months, I believe.
Yeah, there was a report in our tested twice.
One of them was recent, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had tested.
I mean, they don't have any reason to check it, but it's an insurance adjuster, and I'm not trying to be rude, but they can come anytime they want.
Oh, I know, and I think that's great, and I
do too.
always
Yeah,
said that
so we don't
But
have
I
any,
just thought maybe there was a schedule
No.
under the
it was
circumstances.
supposed to be once a month.
so we're on top of it, but I mean, I'm gonna tell you, my personal opinion is, let's move forward in this in a nice, steady, comfortable pace. Let's get to a point where the building is, the interim building is ready, and you guys can all make a decision how that's gonna work for you. And we will start with moving stuff that needs to be moved there, and cleaning whatever needs to be cleaned ahead of time, because that is obviously an issue for everybody involved here. And they have to work with me as to where to place the books, and that's a structural decision. But I think working with the library board, and especially the librarian, that we can come up with something that's gonna be very satisfactory. Should that be a decision the library board makes, it's not my decision, but, and I think that, you know, from my point of view, it makes sense to do that, but I'm talking as much as a citizen as I am as a code enforcement officer. Let's get moved into a place that's safe and start the reconstruction project, however you guys decide you want to do it. That isn't my thing, but I'm going to take care of making sure the building that you could move into is going to be safe.
And I think that those are some of the answers that we need, and that you need, in order to accept this library grant. If we're gonna accept the responsibility of this large project moving forward, we need to have answers to these questions. Are we moving the library to the modular building? Is our town planner gonna be in charge of this planning project? If we're having conflict in these issues, then we need to resolve them now before we enter into these large, costly agreements.
No, there's not a disagreement about you all going to the modulars, is there?
No.
We've got a disagreement on who's gonna head the project.
And to speak to that, this grant is non-transferable. I mean, it's not like the town of Silverton can receive this state grant and then hand it to a nonprofit to manage it. If they give us that money, the town has to,
Yeah, we understand that.
I just wanted to make sure that that is, you know,
I'm
clear.
just concerned about the Friends pulling money, the $10,000 that they offered. I think we need to take some time to meet with them and find out what's on their mind.
And just a question for the Friends, for the $10,000 that we're referring to here, this is matching for this current grant for this $35,000 grant, correct?
Yeah, and I have, I can't speak for that, we have to talk with the registered agent, Terry Kerwin. I'm not sure, if the money is still on the table.
Madam Mayor, just to make something clear, I think you guys saw this. At this point, not only is the town going to totally do the building out of allotted funds, but the town has got that DOLA grant application, which, as you heard Michelle say, is almost going to go through, and that should pay for this whole library planning grant. So at this point, there are no funds needed in any of those categories. Where the funds may be needed, though, is the cleaning of the books in the basement before they get moved to a temporary building. If, again, that's a decision you guys make, that would have to be done professionally in order to satisfy the cleanliness aspects of it. No matter how good we think we can do it in-house, that's going to be a professional clean thing. And so that would be a spot where the town no longer would have funds to do that. That would be a good spot for the Friends to be involved as one option. But we don't, you know, we can't move books from the basement of the library into that building until they're cleaned. And so whether CIRSA would go along with us cleaning them ourselves or having to pay a professional firm, I just don't. I don't know the
Has
answer.
that been asked yet of CIRSA?
I'm sorry?
Has that been asked of
Yeah.
CIRSA?
We actually had majority of books cleaned and boxed, myself and the public works crew, and then we were pulled off the project.
I'm sorry, I did not
Oh,
hear
no,
that.
that's okay. Well, and just to be really frank, and just, you know, Terry did come in and sign, at least I found one agreement for that, and that's fine if they pull out. I just think that's something to be really aware of. It's unfortunate, but you guys as a board are gonna be putting a lot of staff and, you know, financial, I'm sorry, support into this project. And if this is how, you know, if this goes like this back and forth, I mean, that's not a healthy way to get anything done. And so that's why, hopefully that meeting, but it is something to think about. I mean, if we have a signed contract that this agreement was in place, and they don't want to do that anymore.
You're asking us to do that tonight, right? I mean, you want us to make a decision tonight, and
Who?
we just got the information.
Oh, no, nobody's asking you to
And
make a
that's what I'm getting
decision.
from
What the
you guys.
decision to make tonight, well, whether or not to accept these grants, and I think Sarah's hitting on something very important here, is that we need stability as a staff. We're putting a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort into making this library rehabilitation project happen, and we would like some consistency in that. And that's where, if it's an operating agreement, an MOU, whatever it may be, we need to have a process, something consistent, so that it can't be, we're not all over the map. We know what we're doing, we know where our funds are coming from, we know how our project is going, we know who's in charge, we know who's handling what. Those are important things that we need to do, and there seems to be some confusion on who makes those decisions.
Well, and if that's the case, why didn't this just become an immediate work session with the entire board if we knew that this was coming? So the library board could have met, right now while we're doing this, instead of only having just a few members here. So,
Well, it was my impression that the library board was informed, so I think that was an internal miscommunication.
I
The
didn't
direction
understand
of the
what you
library board
said.
was
I didn't
informed.
understand what you said. The library board was what? Was not.
I thought that they were informed.
Okay.
I did not know, and so that is an internal miscommunication. So, yeah, I would say these are important issues that need to get hashed out. And if we want to reschedule another work session with the library board, I think, you know, the library board,
Should we
make time.
put these grant applications on hold?
I would. That would be my
So
recommendation.
that's something I think we need to.
But these are also
realize.
timely, so maybe we
Yeah.
could get Mark to speak to that, because he has taken it over since we got the award letter, and we do have some time constraint. I don't know what it's looking like right now, so. Could you speak to that, Martin?
Yeah, we don't have the grant yet. We have to accept the grant, or we have to turn the grant back. So it's time critical. I guess the issue is, the objection is with me doing this grant, if I heard it correctly. So either way, but it's a complicated, in my staff report, you'll see there's 15 things we have to respond to. It's complicated. We have to put together how we put this out for a request for proposals. So it's extremely complicated. If nobody wants me, that's fine. So I believe I'd like to hear, again, I think the objection is me.
Yeah, well, and if we could meet, and I can give you the minutes where the library board did vote Mark off the project. I have tapes for you, I have quite a bit of information that I really want you to see why we asked Mark Rivas to not be part of it.
I was volunteering all of my time for that, working weekends on the project.
Tiff?
So
I guess the fact that we have one planner and one building inspector and code enforcers, that's who generally heads up.
Actually,
Who would you?
Lewis was the
Right.
lead on the project, and the grant that Mr. Rivas wrote was rejected. Lewis wrote the grant now, and it was accepted. I don't know what's happening with Lewis. The Friends the type is that we have with moving forward with the project. I just think you need to know what the Friends of the Library, which has good funding, and what the library board, because the library board does stand for something. I need to give the new members the state statute numbers for the library, so you know how it's run by the state.
Carrie, did you have a question?
Can I say something, since the public is speaking, to fill in something for you? Okay.
The library board was notified of this meeting today at 11:20. Emails were sent. That was the first I heard of it. Some people are out of town, some people have family visiting. I had no other plans, that's the only reason I'm here tonight. We did not know about this.
Meeting material minutes been sent out for our board meetings on Thursday, and until it was brought to my attention by library board members, I wasn't immediately aware of the constraints or any of the discrepancies in this either, but just, in our current discussion here that we're having right now, this $35,000 grant is really gonna help us get from the library that we have now into the modular building, isn't that correct?
It's not gonna move the
No.
library to the modular building, it's gonna create the construction documents, the plans for a much larger construction grant to really go and take the Carnegie building.
Gotcha, so we currently have the funding right now to at least move the library to the modular building, correct?
No,
Not really, no, we're using unbudgeted funds for that.
Yeah.
So that this is
Town
where
funds.
the town is contributing and committing large amounts of money, staff, time, all of that
Yeah,
to this project. And again, we are asking for a little backing and stability here.
yeah.
If I could just clarify grants. We felt it was so critical in such an emergency, we wrote for the $200,000 grant because we felt it was that big of an emergency. They felt that we jumped. So this is a much smaller grant, which is much easier to get. So the information that was written in the first grant was gleaned from that one. It was utilized to write this planning grant, the much smaller grant. This is for construction documents, but we felt it was that critical, and the former administrator said this is a critical thing. We took that action to do that. So it's two separate grants. So
I think the best way to just, let's just decide now, that we meet, and before any votes are taken on, because it won't be that long, it's been, this basement at the library that has been in this shape for almost 2 years now. So, it's not like it's really important to anybody. So I really think that, we need to get together and just talk it out, and then you know where the friends are coming from, you know the library board. I appreciate everything that Michelle and the staff has done. I think it's wonderful, and it would be nice if we could meet, because I think we can offer a lot of help if we're just asked.
Sarah, you go first.
I just also, in terms of communication or what your connection is with the library board, how you structurally would oversee that, since you fund it. In the ordinance, the mayor is the chair of that board. That's how it is throughout history, and that's how it's supposed to be formatted. And so that would be the communication between the, however that looks, and if that's not how it's going to be, maybe someone, from the board would be, but that's the liaison. If there's not someone on your town board sitting on that library board, then where's the connection?
Oh, yeah, we need that desperately.
The mayor has refused to work with us. She recused herself from the meetings, is what we were
So
told.
we've been wanting to come and ask if, because I realized it would be Austin as the mayor pro tem, that we could have a chair, because it's very hard to move the board of directors.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as a business owner who just
I know.
purchased my own $300,000+ reconstruction effort, I had a discussion with the mayor about that, and I declined that because I've already committed time to the planning commission as well, which will be a part of this undoubtedly as well.
And so that's why we'd like to have the mayor come to our meetings.
Just a point to make, Mr. Lashley, had a hard time with that. The grant that you were talking about, the $35,000, or it's a $55,000 grant that we're going to be putting our funds in total. Part of that is the DOLA fund that Mark applied for in addition to fill in that blank. So that figure you saw up there at the one slide that Michelle had up, remember showed a $17,000 red thing? If we don't go ahead with the grant, the planning grant that's currently in our house that we've been awarded, we will be $17,000 short of doing the modular house. It will come right out of any fund balance. If that grant goes through and is approved, then that $17,000 covers that thing. So I'm not saying there's a hurry on it. I'm just make it clear that from financially to break even, we need to have that grant approved and go through.
Was that $17,000, was that the matching that the Friends had said they would do $8,000 of that?
Well, it wasn't 8, it was 5,700, but yes.
I didn't actually put that in the numbers because I couldn't find that signed document. The only one that I could find was the one for the modular transport,
Okay.
which was the original half until the
Yeah.
cost went up.
Right, okay, so yeah, there was, Terry
I
and
don't-
Lewis had worked out something for
I don't know
the Friends
those
to
numbers.
pay, yeah.
Yeah, that was
So-
5786, and that was.
What was it?
$5,786.
Because I knew 50% of the cost of the
Right.
transportation of the building.
But
Yeah.
we don't need that. I mean,
That's great, I'm
Yeah.
glad you don't.
we're $17,000 short
No.
of finishing it, and if we go through with the grant that's currently there, then that will be a break even, and the grant will be applied.
The 5786 is for transportation of the building.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're asking, Molly.
The $5,786 that was in
Right,
the
right,
slide was strictly for the transportation of the building, because we voted on that a couple
Mhm.
meetings ago.
So
Yeah.
I'm
So-
not sure I understand what you mean by that.
It doesn't have anything to do with fixing it up. That money that was committed by the Friends was strictly for transportation.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So if
what
there
I'm
was
saying,
an additional 8,000 pledge, we've never seen
It's just
that
like that.
from the Friends.
Yeah, if
So
the-
it might have been pledged, but it hasn't been documented yet.
what I'm saying is, if the Friends still gonna honor that, super, that's great. But even if they don't, if we go ahead with the planning grant that we currently have, and the DOLA aspect of it is 17,000, then that extra money that the Friends would donate to that category of moving would free up even an additional 5,700. But if they don't, I'm sorry?
We're losing out on 17K.
Yeah.
Right.
5700.
Right.
Got you a copy of your PowerPoint presentation.
So we're gonna get that building done. That's the big thing that
Yeah.
want to get accomplished, and then whatever you guys decide from there is.
So would it please the library board to table the state historical fund planning grant acceptance, but to accept the DOLA?
We can't.
Can't do one without the other. Yeah. Yeah. So we need to make a decision. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just was gonna ask, like, as far as our timing plan, like our timing here for this, is this crucial that we make decisions tonight, or is this something that we can table for
A day or
one
two.
more meeting or a couple days until we're able to meet with the Friends of the Library Board?
The reason nobody's notified, because we haven't accepted the grant.
Okay.
We don't have
Yeah,
the grant.
We don't have it, yeah.
It can go away.
Is there a deadline, Mark? Did they give you a
I
deadline?
talked to the people, and they would like to process it. They have a limited time. First come, first serve on developing contracts. So I've talked
So,
to,
well,
well,
did they give you an actual date?
I do not have an actual date, but they wanted it as soon as possible.
So when did the report actually come in that said that we were granted it? If those 15 conditions were met, what date did that actually come in?
And then it hit my table a week ago. And then I wrote the DOLA grant. the emergency grant. So please look at my staff report and also my one page and look at the complexity that's there. So if there's another staff member that is able to do it, that's fine with me. So,
Do you want to schedule a special meeting to have the library board meet with you here so that you have decision-making abilities?
Yeah, I think the sooner the better.
Yeah.
And you can-
Tomorrow is fine. I work the rest of the weekend, double shifts, but I'm open tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon.
So we have enough notice for the workers?
Yeah, that's true.
You can, see if that works for me.
You've got, yeah, I have a meeting tomorrow night, so you've got county vote, let's see,
We have a meeting with staff.
Yeah.
we have a meeting with staff on Thursday, is that determined? Wednesday, sorry, has that been determined? Where the location will be? Over at Kendall? Okay.
So Monday,
And then even if we have a work session with the library as well, we can't make any decisions at a work session,
Right,
correct?
that's what I'd say, special meeting.
So then we have to, so then in addition to a work session, we're gonna have to schedule another special meeting just to vote on this issue, likely during the week of 4th of July.
What about Thursday?
This Thursday?
Yeah.
Thursday, I'm scheduled to work at 3 p.m. From 11:45 to 10 p.m. actually.
Are any of you open during the day, like in the morning? Prior to that tomorrow, you said you don't, I know Jess, it's always hard for you. I'm just throwing it out because you don't have to be to your place till 5. You go in at 11. I don't know. I mean, it's just,
I have kids at 9.
I work in the morning.
oh, you do work in the morning. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Well, we could move forward with the 2 grant applications this evening, and then attend their meeting Thursday at 3, correct? And you all can tell us about that?
Yeah, that's a
I
meeting
could probably make that happen.
Thursday at 3, so the 9.
I could potentially find some hours to cover.
But
Do,
we could go ahead this evening with the,
Just accepting the grant and having the other grant come through and just leave it at that. And have the rest of the caveats of the grant be finished, and then finish the Dole grant and then move forward. And then meet with the library board to make the rest of the decisions. Is that agreeable for the library board?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else?
I
Yes.
think
I have a- I just have a question. So you're gonna meet with the library board 3 on Thursday, great. I'm assuming you don't need any staff at that meeting?
it would be, I think it would be beneficial to have staff at the meeting, if that's at all possible. Whoever could possibly attend.
I guess the big question for staff to maybe think about before we have that meeting too, is that if the library board is unwilling to have Mr. Rivas be our registered person, is anyone else willing to step up to do that? You guys are having such a hard time without an administrator already as it is.
I have to say that is like, just the idea that someone other than our planner would be expected to manage that type of a document is exactly what we've been talking about in terms of supporting the staff, or like, it's like it's just a really hard one for me to swallow, and I'm not even Mark, you know.
I guess
So-
I just have one thing, like personally to say for you guys too, as the library board, is like, Mr. Rivas has a whole lot of experience as an architect and a planner, and there should be some really compelling reasons not to have
I
him
would like
be.
all to listen to the.
Yeah, I'd like to be there, yeah. And, I mean, when we have discussed, actually hiring out a grant person.
You need to listen to the meetings from the last
You need to.
year.
Yeah, we have
very good reasons.
That can't be done, so the grant needs to be turned back. It's to the town.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fine.
And
And am I to assume that Lewis is not coming back?
we don't know yet.
Okay,
We don't.
because he is the one that took over the project.
And if this is a timeline kind of thing that's really necessary for us to make a decision quickly upon here, I'm hearing from the town board that we're willing to go the extra mile, to go through the process and to hear you guys out, before making a decision, which we're more than happy to do.
Yes.
But also,
We actually, a member of our board actually asked the sheriff to be at the last board meeting. She was so intimidating and afraid.
Could I, please check and have my lawyer present because of, the accusations that are going on here?
sure,
Yeah, so I'll have to schedule with my lawyer.
yeah.
And I have full documentation as well, so. No, my lawyer,
No, he's a person.
prison lawyer.
Can staff, is there any chance that staff can be present at 3 o'clock on Thursday?
Which staff are you asking? All? No, or just all?
I think
They
Michelle.
may be very,
with the grants and the future funding, all of that.
Possibly Bill or Tom.
I mean,
To have staff present at our meeting with the library
oh,
board.
gotcha.
And it's during.
If I can be,
hours.
I have 2 appointments in Durango about some county business at the Amber Mountain, and I'll make every effort to be back in time for 3.
I be there, because I have to go to the copy meeting because Lewis is not here. And I'm the alternate for the copy. So,
Okay, I think we have, most of us can attend.
Yeah, I will make the effort.
I think it's fair to request maybe that town staff members that are available come, but I think it's really unfair to require that you guys come to this meeting.
I mean,
Just
just
whoever.
whoever, anything that you guys have to say, I hate to have 16 of us and 3 of you. Okay.
Where are we meeting?
You should have. You can have your attorney.
at the library.
Library?
And will the representative from the Friends of the Library be able to attend? Okay, excellent, thank you.
Michelle, I just wanted to say something to you. As board members, like, we're completely supportive of the town staff, but I absolutely think that it's crucial for us to make decisions that we have all the information as well. And I don't feel like we have a complete picture right now. And I think it's important that we at least get as much information as we can before we make decisions. So I really hope you guys know as town staff members that we really support all the work that you guys have been doing. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've got another meeting to go to.
I don't have his information. No, no. Michelle, the frame, I totally spaced the frame. It didn't come, so we'll have to have her sign it and give it to him after. It's before Kemet.
Nice paper.
I know.
And it's already
I
signed.
don't have it. Or is it? It's not in my pile. Unless she came into me.
Do we take a break at all?
No.
We'll flip the lights on those, because I'm right?
I'll let you drink it first.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, really? Well, it's supposed to be, but the friend didn't come in. Now Michelle's, I think she's gonna, hopefully she doesn't like it.
Is that a-
Yes, you are recording.
Everything I've sent out is like, I can't imagine us doing any work without any water in the wetlands. Did you get the same response on the surrounding wetland? It's not a good time to do it.
I think it's more important. She takes care of it.
Right, which I think that is probably fine.
I have no idea.
Everything else is just ahead.
I'm good.
We should talk to her.
I didn't forget about you. Right. Right. And we got to play that game, and we got to these people, and we got a lot of so I didn't forget about you.
Michelle, do you mind just seeing if she has a copy? If not, she can at least read it, and then I can, I mean, I just don't have the pretty copy. I don't know where it went.
Took a while to go who they hated.
Sorry, but actually, we're on the audio.
No, it took a while.
It didn't end up in her box.
When?
It wasn't in her box.
I'll go look.
No, no, I mean, I didn't. She just, she would have known.
I gave it to you.
And then I gave it to her to sign, and I don't.
No, I gave it to you after we signed.
My desk is pretty tidy. I don't have it. I just feel bad.
Is there alcohol in it?
And then the spring didn't
Just
come
told her
in.
to tell him that.
It'll be here.
We have usually gone home. If it's not coming out right, feel free to jump in there and say it.
I didn't, I gave her my copy.
No, I just knew that, just the part about we have a copy for you, and I sent it.
Let's go through all this.
What's me? Oh, you're welcome.
You sure?
Sarah, did you want an Altoid?
I'd love one. Thank you. On what?
Just got the email.
Go look at it.
Yep.
Oh, red? Oh, that too, yeah.
She's coming up to the podium, so she could be that.
Yeah.
What?
recorded. It will be published. It will be published. It's just a warning. Just put it on there.
Is it on your radar that we're meeting with SE Group tomorrow at 8? Okay, we're gonna meet over at Kendall. Yeah.
8.
I think they said between 8 and 9. Yeah, exactly.
We could share.
Bill, you
Can,
can play the,
touch base with that and just double check that tomorrow.
do you have the interim report, Lisa? Do you have the interim report? on
Not
the-
with me. I can go downstairs and.
No. How was it? Good, bad? Does SE Group have any? Being addressed out there? When the train goes through?
Well, I shared some
I'm just
maps
curious.
with them, but I don't know what they're thinking
Oh,
at this point. They're bringing in people who are
Okay.
looking at the terrain,
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
sure they'll have some questions for us.
Okay, so it's 7:07, and we'll start the meeting with the roll call, please. Sarah?
Trustee Barella?
Here.
Trustee Molina? Trustee Wiegert?
Here.
Trustee DeKay?
Here.
Trustee Renauden?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lashley?
Here.
Mayor Tukey?
Here. Please, so we'll start with the pledge. So please lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so hopefully everybody got the revisions to the agenda that we added to the original agenda. Any other comments? So do we have any other public comments before we start the meeting? Nicole, if you just state your name for the record.
Okay, my name is Nicole Vangaza-Rebus. I would just like to speak to the issue of the state grant that was just discussed, and I believe it's on the agenda. I hope that you don't allow this to become an issue of personalities, because the project will die. When you have a project this big and this important and this vital, it's about the building. It's not about the people. Whether it's my husband in charge or whoever, this project needs to move ahead. I would also like to implore you, the trustees, that you, when you go to your retreat with the staff that's coming up, that you find a way to let them have some communication with you. Because the last few months, for me, as the wife of a staff person, has been hell. And he has had nobody to go to, as well as anybody else on the staff. Because of this library issue, we had to hire a lawyer. My husband was threatened with being fired if he did not get put in the grant. That's not acceptable. There are people that know. It's not acceptable. We've been applying for other jobs. You have got to get a handle on this. So please, take my advice and don't make this an issue of personality. please save the building and watch out for your staff. Thank you.
Any other comments?
My name is Jamie St. Jean. I'm a local here, and I've been working with Lisa Brand, Dan Dagos, and a couple other companies around here, trying to plan an adventure weekend. So I have some paperwork I just want to give you guys. We'll run through it really quick, and hopefully it's just something you guys can be your opinions on. Jean. Yes.
Good job. I'm putting on this one.
Do you guys mind sharing this one? Yeah, I'm on the phone. Sorry. Okay, so pretty much we've been working together to try and come up with a way to alleviate the stress on the economy that the 401 fire has created, as well as other cancellations that has come as a result of that. The Mile High Jeep Club being a big one that has a huge impact on the local economy. So we kind of took it amongst ourselves. We're working with a company down in Durango also that's volunteering to help us to come up with an adventure weekend to basically bring people back into Silverton, get the businesses some revenue, bring just new people to this town. So right now we're looking at the dates from August 2nd to the 5th. We know that this is a really strict timeline, and that's pretty much what we're here to hopefully get all of you on board, get full support from you guys as well as all of the local businesses. That's really the only way this is going to be successful, is if we can all work together, make sacrifices in the short run, and look at the payout in the long run. So right now, the benefits of the Silverton, like I said, we're going to expose it to a pretty large group of people. The reach that we have with amongst ourselves as well as other businesses, and Chris down in Durango with Mountain Ocean Media is a very large reach. So we're definitely going to bring in a new crowd. We'll have different genres, pretty much being attentive to any different business that we have here. So, and our ultimate goal is to make this an annual event. We picked this date, the first week in August. There isn't a hard event that's scheduled for the town of Silverton in that weekend. So we are hoping this is an annual event that the town can learn to kind of depend on for the summer. So the next page, we're kind of making this a 4-day event just throughout the weekend. Every day we're going to have a motorized event option, a non-motorized event option, and evening activity planned for anybody that wants to be here. So as you can see, we'll go through the schedule really quick, and then next to it, keep in mind these are businesses that we kind of brainstormed that we think would be great to spearhead that event. But it definitely is still in the works, and those companies and those businesses, we're still communicating with them, and we'll make sure we get everybody on board and all these loose ends tied up. Thursday, real quick, we're just looking at a welcome block party for everybody. Sample Silverton, have the restaurants stay open a little bit later if they're willing to do that, have quick meals for people to grab, go set up camp. An info center, we want to make sure everybody here is clear on the rules. We want to make sure we definitely take care of our town, we take care of the backcountry, and everybody's clear on what you can and can't do. Friday, non-motorized, we have a Colorado Trail bike ride. Cliff is going to help us sponsor that one. For the motorized events, we're going to do photography, history, OHP Jeep tour. Vendor fair, so we're going to have a bunch of different vendors. We have sponsors looking at this event, such as people in Utah, Arizona, and Mexico. So a bunch of people are looking at sponsoring this event. So they're going to have a vendor fair for that. We're looking at setting up an off-road demo course out at Middleton Motorsports for people to go out there and watch. Light parades in the evening, have everybody drive around. We've definitely accommodated Blair and Green Street. We want to make sure all the businesses are definitely getting business. Saturday, again, non-motorized, we're going to do a day at Mullis, motorized lunch and shopping in Lake City. Vendor fair, we're going to try and get some concerts going in Memorial Park to entertain people in the evenings. We're working on a pub crawl. These are all just ideas. And then Sunday, we'll close it off with a big pancake breakfast for everybody, just a big community event. Thank you. Everybody working on this event realizes that the town is in need of this, and that's why we're doing it. So we do have sponsors in mind. This isn't something that we're looking for the town to pay for or the businesses to put money up front. This is kind of just everybody contribute. Here's our sponsors. Let's work together and make it happen.
Yeah, what did you have in mind for the light parade? I guess I missed that one.
Yeah, so for example, we in Arizona, we used to do all the side-by-sides in the Jeeps would get Christmas lights, and they would get like light parade, and then each person wraps their little side-by-side or Jeep or vehicle, anything, in some lights. And then we'll start at probably at the corner of Blair and just do a little light parade around town. Usually most of these OHVs will play, some generic music, and it's just a really fun event. People will stand around on the sides, it'll get people out into the community again. Anybody that's out camping, it'll bring them back into here and get them back to those businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Judy, for putting this together. I think it could be a really good event. Different festivals in places like Durango always has the Snow Down event. This could be a really positive thing for the community to have, so thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
And good luck.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great. That's great.
Any other public comment? Okay, then, before we get into the Silverton ambulance review from Mr. Holland, I'm going to read a proclamation that we put together. Whereas Michael Garriak has been a resident of Silverton and San Juan County since 1972, and whereas the Silverton Town Board of Trustees recognizes that Michael Garriak has given countless hours of community service to Silverton and San Juan County. Whereas Michael Garriak fundraised, designed, and completed construction of a soundstage for public use in the town of Silverton's Columbine Park. Whereas the town board acknowledges with gratitude the amount of personal time, materials, and labor Michael Garriak has donated as a public service to the community of Silverton and San Juan County in the building of the soundstage at Columbine Park. Whereas the town board respectfully bequeaths the name Michael Garriak Soundstage at Columbine Park to the soundstage at Columbine Park in honor of Michael Garriak. Now therefore, as mayor of the town of Silverton, Colorado, I, Christine M. Tukey, do hereby proclaim the Michael Garriak Soundstage at Columbine Park in honor of the service of Michael Garriak in the town of Silverton, Colorado. Proclaimed this 25th day of June 2018, and we do have a very nice plaque that, because of everything going on, is not here at this moment in time. But as soon as it does come in, then we will get a beautiful plaque to Michael. So, Michael, if you want to just come up and give some.
It's all true. I'm gonna try to keep this short, you know how tough that is for me. Some time ago, a previous town council unanimously voted for me to do this project. They had belief in my talents, I guess, as a stage builder, as someone who would get the job done. It's taken a while to do, but we have expanded that project greatly. So people asked me just yesterday, said, and when they found out about this naming, they said, how the hell do you get to have something with your name on it? I said, oh, very simple, very simple. Think of an idea, get a lot of support for it. Go beg for money day after day, beg for money. Put in 200 or 300 hours of volunteer time, everything from digging weeds to whatever. Put in all of that time, still go beg for more money. Continue on working at it, and it just takes that type of sacrifice. That's how you might get your name on something. I do appreciate it. I do thank you. I thank the previous town council for having that support from me and the belief in doing this job. And I thank you for the proclamation. I'm very happy about that. It will make me work even harder to get things done. I'm going to try to do as much as I can this summer. Nobody ever paid labor. I'm happy to say everybody I hired was from Silverton, Colorado, without exception. Very proud of that. Of course, what really makes everything come to fruition is you work, and you put in the time and energy, and then comes last Friday. Oh my goodness. If you weren't there, I know Chris was there. I know a couple of others of you were there. So that's what happens. You believe in something, someone else believes in you, and then you put it all together. So, of course, my cohorts, I'm going to call my cohorts, Todd and Lisa, that we would have like the unholy three, I'd say. So, yes, we all did our thing, worked as hard as we could to put things together. Mr. Bill keeps us in line in a lot of ways, so he will do that in the future for me, and I know he'll give me a break when I ask for it. And that's what happens. So the proof of the pudding is, you look at last Friday, it was one of the most joyous, best occasions we've ever seen in Silverton. Now, I went around in my grubby, dirty work clothes because I was all beat up, and I shook more hands that night than you politicians. And everybody congratulated me time and time again. The only thing I didn't do was kiss babies. But other than that, I was getting congratulated time and time again. So that is the proof of having something put forward that people believe in. And then you have to work at it. After you work at it, and Friday happens, you say, well, wasn't that all worth it? It's not just Friday. It will be succeeding end of month Fridays. It will be brass band. It will be farmer's market. It will be all kinds of things. We are just beginning. They know that. And I'm going to leave you with one last thing, why this project is taking the time it takes. I'm going to use one word that we're going to do with that park. I decided a long time ago, and luckily people like Todd and Lisa came along, and we all agreed that we are going to make that park beautiful. That's the word I am using. That's the word I'm using. We're going to make that place beautiful. We're going to make it the best gathering place in the town of Silverton, right in downtown Silverton, on my favorite street. So thank you again for your support. Thank you for this designation. I'm probably going to use the term the Mike Garriak soundstage. Michael sounds too formal. So I'm just going to say the Mike Garriak soundstage. And happy to have it. Thank you again. Thanks to Todd. Thanks to Lisa. Thanks to Bill. And thanks to everybody. And there's plenty more people. I can't go through all those names. There's plenty of them. And in the future, I will be thanking them not only personally, but in public. So thanks again, and I appreciate that proclamation. And I'm going to work harder now. Thank you.
Okay, so under presentations, we have the Silverton Ambulance Association 2017 financial review from Mr. Kevin Todd.
Sure. Good evening. I thought I would open up, so it is going to be a PowerPoint presentation, so I don't know if you guys, how you want this, specifically Austin, and specifically you guys are kind of around there. But I thought I would start this with a video of our symposium to kind of kick this thing off with. We actually had Mike's band, no, I'm just kidding, Mike, it just so let's see if we can get this thing to play, and we just did this during the fire. Oh wait, let me, are there speakers we can hook up to? We don't have speakers? Oh man, let me see if I can turn it.
Far left-hand corner on the bottom, do you see that little icon? Is it up all the way?
Let me see if I can. On the bottom?
Left.
Left?
Oh, it's
Yeah, that's all the way. All right, well, you can't hear the music, but you can see the pictures. So, So, sorry about the music side of things. I thought we'd be able to hook it up to a speaker. But let me get to the PowerPoint now. And we'll start talking about that. So, even with the fire and the challenges that came with that, we had a very successful symposium. The hopefully this comes up. And it was really challenging. Actually, on the day of the fire, when it started, that was the first day of our symposium, and Jim and I were getting things kicked off at the symposium. We had a keynote speaker out of Oregon that came to talk about the advances in avalanche resuscitation. And shortly thereafter, we got the call because several of our participants from Durango Fire, all their pagers and phones went off about this fire. And it was shortly thereafter, Jim was like, I've got to go. So we had several emergency room physicians from Albuquerque that were coming up to teach that were going to have to drive up through that. I was really concerned that they would cancel since the road was closed, but all three of them drove all the way around through Telluride and Ridgeway to make it. And one drove over overpass, and he was pretty excited about that. So we were very, very pleased with that. And while I'm thinking about it, I just want to publicly thank Jim and all the staff from the town and the county that were involved in our emergency operations center. Just an amazing, amazing job to bring this town together to get through that. So we had a good meeting this morning, and we have some good lessons learned, and things will just get better. So, just want to thank you guys. I know you guys were very, very busy. You always have a lot on your plate, and I appreciate the opportunity to come in this evening and kind of give you an overview of where we are in ambulance operations. So thank you for that. A little bit of introduction. This is a repeat for some of you, but saw some of this presentation last year, but I think it's good to have a little bit of history. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but just for you to know that I have almost 35 years now in EMS and fire. So I've been doing this a long, long time, and been a flight paramedic, been on ski patrols, been on mountain rescue teams. Been around, and this is really my dream job to be in a community like this to help put some things together to make this EMS service sustainable. So let's talk a little bit of history. In 2012, before I was hired, our volunteer membership was in a steep, consistent decline for years. I like to describe it as a roller coaster. Good people working hard, trying to do the best they can, and to make the EMS service, provide good service for the community. So when I started in 2013, we only had 5 or 6 active members. And out of those, there's really only one left still on our roster, but pretty inactive. Very few of the volunteers are locals. You know, they're all new residents. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Some of the most experienced providers, when I got here, resigned. And that was way before I got here, but they wouldn't come back, even with trying to recruit them. They were, for whatever reasons, they all had various reasons, but some of it was stress, burnout, and some was health. But I couldn't, I was trying to boost her to the roster first thing and couldn't really have any luck at that. Critical calls, you know, our call volume, as I've discussed before, has been on an upward trend for the last 5 years. But what they were experiencing is having calls in San Juan County and having nobody to respond. So they decided that they would campaign for a 1% sales tax so they could at least hire some full-time providers. And so that was passed and took effect in January of 2013. When the director at the time resigned to go to Durango Fire, they had nobody to apply for the position. And you know, you can think on your own why that might be, but they were really in desperate times. And I just happened to come to town. And it was actually Larry and Rose were part of that recommended that I look into it. What? Yeah, we're gonna blame it on you. So we got the 2012, or they got the 2012 funding, and over the next few years, some of the accomplishments that have been made out of that funding, we do have paramedic coverage. It took us two and a half years to get paramedic coverage 24/7. At the ambulance, we replaced a lot of old, outdated equipment that were obsolete. We've implemented some standards and professionalism. We've had funding for emergency repairs, and we're working on merging EMS and SAR, basically because 98% of the SAR members are on EMS staff. The new fire station that was built came out of that funding, and I know the fire also got a command vehicle. They got a really nice new OHV, so a lot of good things happened with that. The plan, when the administrator prior to me, they were hoping to hire an experienced EMS director and hire 2 additional full-time people. So when I came on, there were a few things that I said we have to have as a standard, and I won't get into a lot of detail of it, but we're going to go with a paramedic level service. That is the national standard. If you look at a whole list of all those towns, including small towns like Duck Creek, Ouray, and Lake City, all have paramedic coverage. So we're also intended to pay stipends to our volunteers for retention and drivers, and that was put in place, and we put on an annual EMT class just to keep up with the turnover. So the last 5 years, so we have made great strides. Again, paramedic coverage 24/7. The big line for the campaign is it was not sustainable, and had that ballot issue not passed last November, our system would have closed down as it is in March. That's when we would have been financially strapped and would not have been able to continue operating at a paramedic level. So we would have had to have gone back to a mostly volunteer service. So mass majority of our volunteers, there's just no long-term employment opportunities. We do have Michelle now, who does have a full-time year-round job. But most of the people, you wouldn't even recognize their names. That we put over 30 people through the EMS training and locally, and only a handful of them are still with us. And none of them from those first few classes are in town. So that was an important driving factor. So prior to 2013, the best I can see, there were multiple directors, 5 to 7. Some of them were interim, but a lot of turnover, and people trying to provide the service. So you get this steep roller coaster, you know. So people come on, they want to do good, they do their best, they work real hard, and then it just collapses around them. It wasn't sustainable. They were really asked to do the impossible. We've also trained 2 of our members as paramedics. They came and worked with us full time. They signed a 2-year contract, and both of them left as soon as their contracts were couple of other folks have gone on to physician assistant school. But you can see, we only have 12 out of 30, close to 35 now. Almost 40 for this recent class, but I'm not counting them in these figures. But only only 12 are somewhat active. 7 of those are seasonal. Almost a third of our EMT volunteers drive up here from Durango to volunteer with us for their stipend. So we're very fortunate to have them. This is our mission statement. So this is part of the professionalism. Our mission and number one priority is to provide the highest quality, most compassionate emergency medical care to San Juan County and citizens. So citizens and visitors. So any organization that is familiar with mission statements, this is your compass. This is what drives you. This is what keeps you moving forward to provide the best service that you can provide. You can always circle around and come to that, and as whatever decisions you're making meet our mission. To further that, we have goals and objectives, and to create and maintain the highest level of emergency medical care through dedication, education, and training with the highest degree of integrity, to create and maintain a culture and environment of learning, to create and maintain a system prepared for the most critical calls. So, and that is why the paramedic level, right? Anything less than that, 150-hour EMT course versus 2 years equivalent of upper college emergency medical training, just you're more prepared to deal with the most critical of calls, right? So that's why we are a paramedic service, to meet that standard. So the call volume, this has been an updated slide. So you can see the first 4 years, 2013 to 2016, over those from 163 calls a year up to 248, so that's a 35% increase over the 4 years. 2017, we saw a little drop, 17%, but as of now, we are up to 85 calls this year, which is 36% up above any of those other years. Why that is, I don't know. If we could always predict that, you would be a genie. So that's our call volume. So out of those calls, we have had 3 helicopter transports. We had a 4th helicopter request, but this was during the fire, a critical ATV patient, and the closest helicopter was Farmington. And we just couldn't delay transport waiting for them to get here, so we ended up having to transport all the way to Montrose. So a little additional information. So Silverton, as I describe it, we have the same challenges as a national park. You know, we have calls all over the county, whether it's backcountry, whether it's here in town, or on the highway. And one of the major differences, at least in the national parks, a lot of them, they're closed part of the park in the winter, where that's not always true here. So in addition to the beauty that we have here in Silverton, when it comes to rescues, we have the same challenges as you can see in a national park. So some demographics. Again, I haven't updated this. This is just a little bit of an update, but in 2016, 73% of our EMS transports were non-San Juan County residents, meaning that their bills went outside of San Juan County for their ambulance transport, and 90% of all search and rescue calls are non-San Juan County residents. So we are seeing more and more multiple calls in a day, multiple simultaneous calls. And just an interesting period that we had in January. Some of you may be aware of this. On Thursday, I think I mixed the Thursday and Saturday, but we had a high angle rescue on a Thursday, I believe it was, a critical patient in Cascade Creek on an ice climbing accident. Had really very critical injuries, was flown right to a level 1 trauma center in Albuquerque. We had a cardiac arrest conversion. That was one of the helicopter transports. And that following Sunday is when we had our avalanche rescue. So you never know when things are going to happen and when they're critical calls. So just this couple of days ago, we had another cardiac call that was critical, but converted and saved, although they're still in the ICU and struggling to stay alive. So the retention challenges that we faced, pay was a major issue. We took care of some of that a few years ago. But you can really work anywhere around us, except for maybe Lake City, and get better pay. But you know, the biggest issue of our turnaround and the exit interviews with those that have left us really had a lot to do with we have no help. So we're on critical calls. We're trying to manage critical patients, and we don't have a whole lot of help. And the help we do have are usually brand new, inexperienced EMTs, where you can go right down the road to Station 15 in Durango, make more money, have a lot more help, and it's a difficult environment. And so for those folks, that's what they chose. The other big part is we have an awful lot of administrative duties. Again, that they can go work somewhere else, make more money, have a lot more help, and not have anything near the administrative duties. So we pile a lot on our full-time staff. The EMT challenges are, again, very few long-term, year-round employment options. So there's a lot of seasonal. They come, we train them, and they'll stick around for a couple of hours, a couple of years maybe, and then they're off. We also tie them to a contract, but it's more about how many shifts that they will work. So and it's difficult, right? I mean, there's a lot of training, a lot of responsibility, a lot of liability, and if you do one transport, that's 4 hours out of your day. So, and if you're on an out-of-town call, you're 6 to 8 or longer out of your day. It's a lot to volunteer. So resources are a big issue. You know, our closest help is Durango Fire by the time you get through dispatch and ask for help, and they get en route and get up. And these times are here in town. So you're talking 45 minutes, your area maybe 40, 45 minutes. Helicopter resource, 20 to 25 minutes away at best. Last year, I think it was, we had a rollover ATV accident with, came in as 3 critical, 2 adults, 1 pediatric patient, about a 200-foot rollover. So fire, EMS, search and rescue got en route. While we were en route, we got a call for a chest pain, shortness of breath, nausea and vomiting, all the classic signs of a heart attack. And dispatch told us out and said, we have nobody available, please call Durango. They called me back, said Durango's not available, who should we call? I said, call Ouray. They called me back, said Ouray's not available, they can send Ridgely. So help was a long, long way in her particular case. So getting back to not having enough help, this is a call on the left is of a critical patient up on Hurricane Pass. There's 2 of our people. Lila is on her knees there. Right across from her is Ian. And this lady and her husband were both critical patients. And they're trying to manage that. The rest of those people are just people that were, on the road that stopped to help. And trying to deal with this patient, and you see the little picture on the right, is the resources to manage that patient appropriately in the emergency room. So this was a big issue of why we needed that extra funding to at least maintain our staffing, to go with paid EMTs along with our volunteers. So our challenges are keeping full-time paramedics, keeping our volunteer EMTs, competitive pay, competitive benefits, training, money for training, equipment and supplies, and just keeping up with equipment. So that's where we were at. Our proposal, in addition to that, was to increase our staff by 3 full-time EMTs to supplement our volunteer ranks. And there's just, that will certainly slow the hemorrhaging a lot by having people that you know are trained and they're getting experience. There are a few, over the last few years, we do have a handful of people that are gaining some experience, but still not as much as if they were working full-time. So that was a big issue. So here's some more pictures of some other training. We do a lot of helicopter training, airway training, avalanche training. We train with the town team at the ski hill on the lift evacuations. The other picture on the right is working with the University of New Mexico Diploma in Mountain Medicine program, which is part of their medical school. Some more pictures of training. The picture on the bottom right is that's our medical director, Dr. Hughes. So we do 3 or 4 times a year we do chart reviews with our medical director, and EQ quality assures all of our calls and paperwork and charting. And so that's also a big part of what we do. And some more training there. And so our 2 to 3 year plan, now that we've received some funding, 2018, for this summer, we are adding on every day that we can an additional EMT, so that we at least have 3 people on. But we're still at our challenge. Last Friday, I think it was, we didn't have an EMT. I happened to be in town, so I just volunteered my day to work with Maggie, and we did have a transport, and that's what we try to do to back each other up. But on some days, we've been able to put 2 on per day. So we feel like that's improving our service. And what having 3 people does is you, on training purposes now, when I have a new EMT that's in the back of the ambulance, I can be back there with them. We can do a little more hands-on training with them, and I can be right there with them to get them that experience. Right now, if I let them attend with the patient, I'm usually driving and having to coach them from the driver's seat. So that's a benefit on the training. Certainly, if we have a critical patient, now instead of 1 person back there having to take care of a critical patient, we know we will have at least 2. And then the other important part is if once our folks get up to par and they feel comfortable transporting patients without the paramedic, then we can always leave the paramedic in town to at least first respond. So we added some benefits to our FTEs to make them equal to what the town and the county pay their employees. We'll finalize our 5-year plan, get that approved by our board, and then that should come to you guys so you can see what the 5-year vision is. And the big thing is our financials, getting those in order for long-term stability. So, like I said, March would have been it. We would have had to make some huge changes through how we operate, which means we'd have lost all our paramedics. And So we want to build up something that's going to be long-term, that is sustainable. Our paramedics will start their diploma in mountain medicine program, which I won't get into a lot of that, but it's a lot of advanced training for paramedics, nurses, and doctors. And then certainly we're participating with the advisory board for the county and coming up with a little more of a formal budget process. For 2019, we hope to hire 3 full-time EMTs and everything that comes along with that to support that program. And then 2019, 2020 to establish some community outreach programs and community paramedicine programs. So I won't get into a lot of details about that right now. So that's all I have, and I'm open for any questions. That's our that's your team right there. I was supposing last year. So yes.
I was told this was for financials. Are those submitted?
I was not told about anything on financials, so I was told to come to a presentation on where we are. But I am happy to absolutely do that when I just need time to prepare it. So I didn't know anything about the financial stuff until my wife saw it on the agenda, and I called and said, I don't have anything prepared for financials. So
Okay, so how soon can we expect that?
whenever.
2017. Okay, so we got them from, who were we asking for? We were asking for any of the ones that were our interagency partners or intergovernmental partners,
Right.
which was the fire department, sheriff's department, and then EMS, and the
Yeah.
other 2 submitted.
So I didn't get that. So I was just told to present what the projects were on. So you want to see what the 2017?
Yeah, we were looking for closing books 2017
Okay.
for each of the
Yeah, that's easy.
intergovernmental, isn't that right, Tiffany?
Sure.
Yeah.
Where you may be in
Yeah.
18, like how you feel, from what you've budgeted, how you
Sure.
feel.
We can do 2017 and where we are in 2018. Yeah, no problem.
I'd be kind of interested in knowing how many of the calls, you said there are 80-some for the first 2 months of.
Yeah, 85.
How many of those were first aid, how many were medical, how many were transports, how many, you said you called the helicopter 3 times?
I think yeah, 3 times now. We called it 4, but we had to cancel 1.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's, what is your reason for wanting to know first aid
Just
calls?
interest, I mean, how busy are you? You know, you tell us how busy you are, but how many of those are just first aid calls? You know, like when you set up for Hard Rockers, not Hard Rockers, but the 4th of July, you know, you're
Yeah.
there.
So we don't count any of that stuff. These are people who have called 911.
Okay.
These are not, so, but I think that you know, so all 85 of those calls, right, are not emergencies where it's life and death, right? Some of them are like a dislocated shoulder. It's not life and death, but they're in a lot of pain, you know. Or today, the guy who fractured his ankle, you know. Not life and death, but they're in a lot of pain.
But that's medical, that's what I'm saying. How
Yeah.
many transports do you actually have as opposed to just
Yeah.
looking at, you know, taking a cinder out of somebody's eye,
Yeah.
like we used to have to do back in the day?
Yeah, well, we still do, yeah, you're right. So, no, it's interesting, and that's a huge part, but that's a medical call too. It's not just a cinder in the eye. And it's been a big deal with our medical director that, because some people, when I first got here, were doing that and they weren't recording it, but there's been lots of documented cases of people losing their eyesight because they never were followed up on, and somebody's just removing. I'm not saying here necessarily, but we go through the whole paperwork with somebody with just a cinder in their eye, whether we're finding them or not.
Yeah.
So, but we can break some of that down for sure.
And I guess, did you mention something about the finances? I mean, how much, you know, how much money do you actually, what is your percentage of return, you know, in your billing?
Yeah, I can get you all that too, and we can update that. And I'll get you the figures on what the national, what the national trend is on. It's it's almost a full-time job for billing companies to keep up with all the changes between Obamacare and Trumpcare and who's paying what and what the state of Colorado is willing to pay. And, so, you know, when we talked about this last year, it was pennies on the dollar for Medicare and Medicaid, you know, and that's what brings the rates down. I don't think that's getting better from what I'm hearing. I hear it's getting worse, so.
What does an helicopter run cost?
Well, it depends on the helicopter. So, hospital-based helicopter, which is what we use primarily. So, Flight for Life is based on Mercy, and Montrose Care Flight is based out of their hospital. And they tend to be more reasonable, but you're still talking $15,000 to $20,000, $25,000. A private helicopter. So if our two helicopters aren't available, then our next layer is San Juan out of Farmington, which is hospital-based, but they have a very heavy helicopter, and so it's a challenge just in the summer for them to come to town. You've had to meet them down in Purgatory or even further down to get them. And then the next closest helicopter is Moab, and they are a private for-profit helicopter, and those tend to be, you know, very, at least 20, 30% at minimum more. It is not cheap. So.
If there's some kind of way that we can get a breakdown at some point of just like a few different kind of layers, like one would be location, so like what the calls are in Silverton versus in the Logan County area would be kind of cool to see. And then I'm sure that you guys have like a list of like the 5 most common, you know, calls that you get, like whether it's like vehicle related, and maybe there's even a way that's easy to break down versus, you know, like a highway vehicle versus an off-road vehicle. Just that way for statistics we can see a little bit of like the larger impacts that some of these things are having in our community. Like how many come from ridership of the train, you know, for example. And I don't know how easy it is to break that stuff down, but
It would take a lot of work and research. So one of the things that might make it easier, but the state required, well, every EMS service to switch to what the state provides. It's called ImageTrend. It's a web-based charting system, and they switched everybody over to ImageTrend Elite, and it's been quite the challenge in this transition. But hopefully, as we understand it, and Stony is working with Durango Fire, so I think we can program it so we can, you know, pick things that we want to. Like right now, we have to put in a special waiver, right, for doing shoulder reductions. That's not in the scope for EMS services, but you can submit the paperwork to the state medical control board to get their approval to do things like that, or rapid sequence intubations that's kind of paralyzing patients. So there's a lot of different skills that you can get, but you have to back it up with statistics. So we've been having to hunt down how many shoulder. It just so happens we've had like 5 already this year, so that's plenty to justify having that special skill. But we'll try and get you whatever you guys.
I just thought it would be kind of interesting to see if it's difficult to do. I fully understand it. Yeah.
Well, but I think the highway versus the OHV and location is very critical.
Yeah, I think, you know, what I've seen, I can just tell you off the top of my head, I've seen OHV increase, and, you know, we had a couple of fatalities. We've had, every summer, we've had multiple critical patients, and I think that probably outweighs what we see on the highway. But I would have to really look at the stats. And just a side note, so on working with Becky and with the committee, we were, before the fire, we were working on trying to do some research and do some pamphlets of safety in the background. Because we really, you know, from our perspective, we think people think that they're in Disneyland and that help is right around the corner. They don't realize that they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they're taking quite some risks. So the double fatality was a heck of a risk that should have never been taken. But, you know, they didn't know any better, so. But it would be good to break that down. And I think the sheriff's department would even have more statistics, because there's a lot of things that they get called to or they hear that we never hear. You know, they just get there and handle it, so.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, thank you guys.
Okay, so we'll continue on with the regular meeting agenda. We're down to number 5, approval of the consent agenda items, including payroll, meeting minutes for 5/14 and 5/29, accounts payable, the Ariba running, and the special events applications that we've gotten for Kendall Mountain Run, for the Silverton 1000, for the Silverton Alpine Marathon, the Hard Rock 100 Endurance Run, special event application, the 4th of July Association Memorial Park usage, special event application, and then there's a letter of support that was added to our agenda for the Colorado Energy Office, EV fast charging infrastructure. So if there's anything that you want more information from, I do, G. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take G off.
And, could Mark just give you the information?
What exactly
An
is
overview?
your concern? What exactly is your concern?
I just don't even know what we're asking for. It's just an application.
Madam Mayor,
Good.
Madam Mayor,
Is-
last time I had a company contact me regarding a letter of support for an electric vehicle fast charge station. And then I got a power company asking for the same thing. This money is grant money coming from, believe it or not, the Volkswagen scandal of the emissions. So there's a lot of money available to do that. So they have predicted the route, and we are about midway through the route called Route D. So somebody with an electric vehicle can come through and guarantee that they can make it. So the game plan is that there's corridors all around the state that you can plug your electric vehicle into. So it's much more than just the Tesla. That's a different world. This is for all electric vehicles. So, and the first thing that we had 2 weeks ago was specific to that. I don't know if you remember it in your packet. That was specific to that one company that was putting in for grant money. Now we've got 2 companies, so our only alternative is to say we love electric vehicles and we support that. So it depends on who gets the grant and what level of cooperation, but we've signed nothing. But it's the concept of having electric vehicles. It's another set of people that roll into town that spends money. That's my opinion on it. So.
I really feel like this is a no-brainer.
I just wanted more information.
I think we
So,
should keep
thank
it
you.
on the consent agenda.
Yeah, we can go back on. I just wanted more information. It could have been spoke to now. Thank you.
I think too, I think we've got people in town that are actually actively looking at getting the grant. So it's not anything that, you know, that we expect to have in front of the town. So, but it's kind of a support thing so that the people know that the town board is big. Okay, then we'll just leave G on. So, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda items.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, so we have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem
just like to let you all know, I heard from Dale Garland today that the Hard Rock 100 will indeed be happening. They were a little bit on the fence with the fire and the forest closure, but they did make the determination today to go forward with it, so.
Thank you. So roll call, please, Sarah.
Trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee DeKay,
Yes.
trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Renauden,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Tukey.
Yes. So now we're down to number 6, staff reports, and under that, we have the May Visitor Center financials, the May financial statement, the May financial snapshot, and the economic fact sheet, Silverton, San Juan County. So, you've got all the staff reports in your packet, so if there's anyone that you would like to have questions. Trustee Brewer?
If I can find it, there is where's the financial snapshot? Do you remember what page? This would be page 121. Very hard to read in our copy, but it says Mullis Lake reservations collected in May. Refunds, 10,000, can't read the whole word, 975 and 14 cents. So you had reservations canceled in May prior to fire. Does anybody know?
No, I think you're probably right, down
It's very, very, very hard to see. I pulled it up on the computer, that was the only way I could actually read it. So I was just really curious, because
I
that's.
didn't look at the financial statement.
I believe the last time they were updated, it was about, the translations were about 7,000 to 8,000.
That
Is
would
this
have
saying
been, that would have been in
10,000?
June. That would have been June. This actually says May, that's why I was asking.
Right, it probably is,
So that
probably
would have
both
been,
months.
was it both months?
I don't believe we
But you're
opened
saying
until
10,
June
are you
1st.
saying 10,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, look, it's really
Yeah,
close.
I could see that, right?
I don't believe we were open in May. I think June 1st was our
Oh.
opening day up at Moles.
So those cancellations have probably grown.
I think they're
From the
most
last
likely
time we
from
were
June.
The May financial statement shows our total fund revenues, as $10,837.22. So yes, I think these are June numbers.
Okay.
But I will go back and research that and make sure that those are our June numbers.
Did you say 10,800 and some, so we refunded more than what we took in? In June.
No, that was the revenue, $10,837 in May.
Okay, and we refunded 10,975.
Let me go back and research that number
Okay.
before you say that for sure. And I will follow up with you guys on email.
And we would be refunding for the future reservation.
And that economic fact sheet was something that Willie put together the morning that the group of us went down to visit with the governor and the senators and the representative. That's what it's like. And it's just a fact sheet of, some interesting items. And then at the same time as he was putting it together, Kim White called him about, a concern she had about the school. So, Trustee Dwight?
Okay, so this says discussion of new electrical schematic for the chair lift, with the Highline automation. Is that yours, Tom?
Yes,
Okay. Have you actually talked to Paula?
I have contacted them 4 or 5 times to no response.
Who are you actually contacting?
I would have to reference my email.
Okay, because I do know somebody who actually works at Palma, I told Lisa this before, in Grand Junction, and so they're not getting anything on their end as a record coming through for this town. I've asked 2 different times now, so that's why I want to make sure that we are all on the same page, if we are going to work with Palma, and we need to get directly to them at the service station in Grand Junction. Because I think you and I, Lisa, you and I discussed this back in February, somewhere in there, maybe it was March, but, yeah. 'Cause I do know somebody there, so if you're not getting the response you need, we can hook you up, okay?
Highline Automation did say that it would be probably after Thanksgiving before they could get us a schematic. So Palma is at this point the only option.
Yeah, okay, all right, so come and talk to me after this is over, and I'll get you that information.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And then I did have a question for Lisa. Did the Mile High Jeep Club ever give you any sort of reason for backing out?
I have gotten no communication from them about the fact that they were canceling it all.
Okay.
And that's the case for Deanne as well. Neither of us have heard anything from them. We learned it because of the cancellations that the lodgers were getting, and then we saw it on their Facebook page, but they have made no direct contact with us about it at all.
So that's on them. And I'd really like to commend you guys for really working hard to get something else in here.
Well, I certainly hope that will think of coming to our community in the future.
We'll see.
I would really like to, I know John's not here in his department, but I tell you what, those lines are straight. I'm so proud of these guys painting, that was awesome to see.
I referenced my email and my contact was Rod Stocking. He's the head of maintenance
Okay.
for Lightner Palma.
What was the last name?
Stocking?
Stocking.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, I'll get you the rest of the information then. Perfect. Mr. Rivas?
Madam Mayor, if the trustees could look at my staff report, and that's important in your discussion, there's a 70-page grant manual, and there's 15 acknowledgements that we have to do to accept the grant, so it's quite complicated. Plus, we have to do an email confirmation of that. So please pull that out. That'll be important in your discussion with the library board to look at the complexity of that.
Any other questions from the trustees for the staff?
Thank you for all your hard work. Keep it up. Much appreciated.
Okay, then we'll go down to trustee reports. And maybe for the people that want to see now, you could keep the other board members just a little. So trustee Buchanan, you want to start?
I attended, a harassment class, and with suggestions from that class to update our policies, our personnel policy book, handbook, and I'll bring that to our staff and board retreat. And also, disaster relief, I attended that. It was primarily Boulder County that presented, and they had, the floods in 2013, and they're still recovering and understanding how FEMA works. It's essentially an insurance company, and to be treated as such, and that we need to put into place contracts ahead of time before a disaster would say occur, and I'm sure Jim Donovan probably, if we wanted to also have have him update us on what that looks like for our community. But they said the more that we're prepared ahead of time before a disaster, we might be much better off than we are in the future. due to your community, when you're going to replace your infrastructure, it has to be replaced exactly back to be reimbursed. But if you'd like to make improvements, say larger culverts or, then that is your community's financial burden. Those were two. I'm going to call it and Michelle. We met with, and Molly, we met with Patrick to discuss having a financial analysis done. It's really a good thing to know what this may look like for us, comparing possibly to 2002. I don't know, this was a little bit different with the highway closed and the forest closed. So I don't, the picture of how this is and where we cut, if we do have to make any cuts necessary. It'll be nice that DOLA also helps us look at where we can save and cut in the future. So,
Yeah, Patrick really spoke to us a lot about prioritizing, making sure, like the library. If the library is our #1 priority, then what are we going to do? The same way with the grant that we've already received for the water station. What projects can we put on hold? What contracts can we back out of? I was really happy to see everybody got the email, hopefully from John Seitz, about the gravel contract, so that just saved us another $5,000. And it was really about prioritizing everything. You went to a different harassment class than I did. Mine was taught by an attorney, and there again, it was actually about pulling the paperwork out of your personnel policy and actually making it a standalone document in order to, and that way you can have instant, reading and understanding about what the tolerance is. And he actually said to remove the word zero tolerance and create it to your community, because everybody has different dynamics. And I felt that class was, very, very vital to avoid the situations that we're dealing with in town. Oh my goodness, the fire disaster one, we did, I did another one about forest fires in general. And the recovery is usually 2 to 5 years, just for an economic standpoint. So that is something that we really need to look at. Durango obviously is harder hit with a larger financial than we are, but we won't know until sales taxes start rolling in from June, July, August, September, and so on. What other classes did I do? I did quite a bit.
as we mentioned, when the director of DOLA announced to help Silverton and Durango to all the other municipalities in the state, it was tremendous. It was wonderful.
Well, and then during the opening statement, they had said we're, really unfortunate that around Silverton that the BLM stayed open, but the Forest Service had closed, and I raised my hand and cited 1,200 people and went, I just got a text message about 10 minutes ago, it's opening tomorrow. And so that was a lot of big applause for the area, because, our neighbors are looking out for us, so, made some good connections.
Madam Mayor, if I could, it was mentioned, Mr. McDoug cut his hours as well to help out. So he's not working Fridays as well.
Michelle, would you want to add, since you went to the...
And you have nothing to bring.
I gave you a written report, but I can give you a couple things. We talked, so we started out with what's new at DOLA, and the director and deputy director gave updates on the impact of the BP litigation with DOLA and what their funding looked like, and in 2018 and 2019 moving forward. And they're actually recovering pretty well, and they've got some money to give, so that's good. Let's see, I attended the disaster assistance or the disaster recovery PowerPoint, which I did share, or presentation. I shared that with Jim and with Melanie Russick as well. And I did one on
tax incrementing for downtowns, and that was put on by a panel of attorneys, and it was describing the differences between an urban renewal authority and a downtown development authority. And my notes are in there, so I'll probably say the opposite of what my notes say. The downtown development authority is controlled by the municipality. Both of them are funded by tax increments through portions of a mill levy, so we're talking property taxes. There were some benefits to both. It seemed, the sense I got, they used a lot of, there were some different municipalities there that had implemented this in Greeley, Trinidad, Westminster, Broomfield, and the majority of them had taken the model of urban renewal authority over a downtown development authority. But I think it warrants some more research. I did ask some questions about can we expand that authority over counties or regionally and include maybe some, Lake City, for example. Could we create an urban renewal authority collaborating with some of our neighbors? And it wasn't impossible, but I think that's something for down the road. For right now, we're treading water here, so that is definitely something that we should look forward to in the future. What else do I have? What did you say?
The liquor.
Oh, liquor, thank you. There were some really important liquor updates. 3-2 beer is out starting in 2019. So they are replacing that retail liquor license with what they're calling a fermented beverage license, and it's going to allow retailers now to carry full strength beer and wine in grocery stores and convenience stores. So there'll be a transition of those types of licenses in 2019. Also in there's also distance requirements associated with that, and they are 3,000 feet for a population under 10,000. So we will need to visit that. We can override that or opt out of that as a local licensing authority, but we'll have to do so by ordinance.
Sounds like marijuana.
Yeah.
1,000 feet from schools and whatever.
And it's obviously not practical for everyone.
Well, what was really unique about that is they're actually giving you the power back because of the size. Yeah, which in a lot of other cases, you can only make the state stronger as far as when you create something in a municipality. So it was kind of really odd to actually see them say, well, hey, you're this small, we'll let you guys do it. But it would, yeah, like she said, by ordinance. So that was actually really interesting.
So then there's Senate Bill, it's on here. It's in there, that in 2019 will also allow for local licensing authorities, which we are already established as, to pass by ordinance the ability to have public consumption areas. And that would be a town-owned property where we would allow, essentially we would allow open containers. It does not allow for the sale of alcohol, so these would be basically people bringing their coolers and being allowed to consume in public. Only if the local licensing authority passes that ordinance and opts for that.
On town.
It doesn't, and only on town property. There, I did ask the question in there, and I think that's another piece that I would like to get clarified, that they didn't really know. Does that include the public right of way, like a street? And so we'll kind of see how that one fleshes out by 2019. But I'd kind of like to see another municipality pass that one and see how it goes for them before we jump right into that. But it's out there. What else?
And let's see, I attended this taxing class on sales tax, and actually
Remote internet sales?
It was, yes, it went in the direction of internet sales, but they had just, I guess, this decided that morning, South Dakota versus Wayfair. And it kind of took the presentation and set it on its ear, and they had to reorganize their discussion because of that outcome. And then they feel other states will be following or looking at sales tax on internet sales. The one in South Dakota, I believe, was $100,000, or if you do over $100,000 in business, on the internet, or 200 pieces, more than 200, and then you have to be collecting that sales tax, and then, yeah, for the state. But anyway, it was just a really interesting discussion. They did play back a lot of the court justices' discussions on that very case, just that it's going to be a big one. I didn't realize the Senate had not decided on this issue for 26 years. And so that's why the justices said, we're going to do it. We've given them plenty of time, they haven't dealt with it, and we're going to deal with it. So it was really fascinating. And it may definitely mean something for the state of Colorado in the future. So, that was wonderful.
And especially for our town, if we want to promote cottage industry.
And for the overall, for the whole state, and if that's more funds, because they feel they're losing millions, if not billions of dollars in internet purchases, I'm sure every municipality will possibly benefit in some way from that in the future. So, fascinating.
Anything else? So then we're moving on to continued business. Under A, the donation request for MSI for the Innovation Expo. And you've got that in your packet.
That's a misprint on my part on the agenda. It's the Innovation Center. It's for the Science Center that they are working towards.
Yes. So, Trustee Will? I'm worried that that's a big chunk of change. I don't know what everybody else feels in uncertain times.
Well, I'll say what I feel.
Trustee?
If, FEMA Doodle just cuts hours, I don't see where we're justified in giving $1,000 to operation, that's just not me. We give them a lot, MSI.
And it may be that we need to look at the fact that it was done and on our budget for this year, except that it was before the fire and everything happening. And, you know, maybe we need to think about readjusting.
Yep.
And, you know, I can't imagine that because they've been part of the fire thing also, that they wouldn't kind of understand if we, you know, cut it. But it's up to, you know, the board.
We certainly could cut it.
I think so. Well, I think $2,100. Well, no, I think we need to just cut it. I think they could probably do without it. I think this is just, they know they can ask and we usually give it and we're not going to do it as far as I'm concerned. I just don't think it's justified.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would agree with Trustee Brown and what she has to say. It is a good idea that we really manage our finances well right now. I do think it's important that we do send a letter of support to MSI to let them know that we still want to partner with them. We just can't offer them money this year. Because they do a lot of good stuff in the town. They bring a lot of people here. They bring a lot of business to the community.
And they do have the office here and they're open there on 12th Street and offering that to visitors. It's a very nice offering to our community, just so that you'll know.
So could we have the schedule for the support letter?
I do want to point out that we do offer them a lot of support as it is now, and in-kind support, and I think that's a great idea. I have a meeting with MSI tomorrow, their steering committee for the Science Center, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but having a letter in writing and really letting them know that we do support them, and I don't think they're going to take it hard that we're in, we're hard economic times. They're understanding too that I think it would be very much appreciated that they know that the town does support and want them here, and will continue to try to do that.
Thank you.
Is that okay?
Sure, it's
Great. So then we have a public hearing for the final reading and adoption of ordinance 2018-08 municipal code. Maybe we can put this one to the the ordinance of 2018-08, an ordinance of the town of Silverton, Colorado, adopted by reference and enacting a new municipal code for the town of Silverton, providing for the repeal of certain ordinances not included therein, adopting the model traffic code for Colorado 2010, the International Building Code for 2006, the International Residential Code for 2006, the Mechanical Code for 2006, the International Fuel Gas Code for 2006, the International Fire Code for 2003, the Uniform Code for Building Conservation 1991, and the Uniform Code for the Abatement of Dangerous Buildings 1997, providing for the manner of amending such code and providing when such code and this ordinance shall become effective. So, if there's any discussion from the board before I open it up to the public hearing? Okay, then I will open it up to the public hearing, if anybody has any comments or anything.
I'm a little confused, Rose Rob. Didn't this happen at the May 29th meeting? We had a public hearing and a second reading.
It did, but the public hearing publication didn't make it in the paper, so we are just covering all our bases and making sure that the whole process
Okay,
is covered.
thank you for explaining that.
Thanks, Rose. Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, then we'll close the public hearing. And if there's no further discussion from the board, then I will entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 2018-08. Okay, so we have a motion from trustee Renata. We have a second. Second from trustee Renata. Any other from the board? Okay. Roll call, please, Sarah.
Trustee Wigger,
Yes.
Trustee DeKay,
Yes?
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
Trustee Renauden,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Tukey.
Yes. Okay, so then we're down to approval of resolution 2018-02, a resolution by the Board of Trustees of the Town of Silverton and the State of Colorado authorizing lease agreement with the Citizens State Bank of Luray. And this is the lease for financing purchase of a water dispenser from Elmridge.
That's at the visitor center.
Okay, any discussion from the board? Then I would entertain a motion for approval of resolution 2018-02.
that was what we had been discussing, was 39 cents a gallon. The rest of it was, kind of speculating. But, we believe within a year we should be able to pay off,
Oh, that would be good.
if we had a full summer.
Did you check with the campgrounds to see how much they're charging? I know that-
$15
For what?
to fill up their tank.
No,
That's
but-
what we charge.
All right,
Okay then.
I would,
And
any further discussion?
the machine was finished production yesterday, so we'll be shipping this week.
Okay.
Oh, good, okay.
So it's finished.
I think you should make sure you're gonna make money at it, because we make money at it, and you should make more than us. Because it's kind of playing into our pockets too.
And I think quite a few people, from what we understand, really do use that. You
Oh,
worked at the
gosh,
visitor center and
Yeah, they fill up and take off real fast without giving it.
And leave no dollars in town, and take our waters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got no problem with that, but I mean, I wanna make sure you're making money at it.
Well, we'll go based on what Todd said.
Okay, then, roll call please. Sarah?
Trustee Barella?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegert?
Yes?
Trustee Decay?
yes.
Trustee Renauden?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lashley?
Yes.
Mayor Tukey?
Yes. Okay, so now we're down to D, a public hearing for the town of Silverton local licensing authority to consider the Grand Block Promotional Association request for common consumption area, 1200 block of Green Street for the 4th of July celebration. And Trustee Barella is recusing herself. Okay, so you have the promotional information in your packet. It's for Wednesday from 5 to 11 p.m., July 4th. So is there any information from us or any discussion from the town board before we open it to a public hearing? Trustee Wiegert?
I am happy to see that all of the adjacent business owners have agreed,
Yes.
so it's very nice to see. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll open it up to public hearing, so Mr. Harper?
Oh, ma'am, I just wanted to come to the podium to answer any questions that anyone may have. If not, I'll be more than happy to sit back down. It's wrong.
So this is gonna be similar to what we saw last year during the 4th of July with Green Street closed.
Yes, sir. It'll be close. We wanted to do something in lieu of fireworks, something that would attract folks to downtown, keep them downtown, keep them entertained. We have the event at the park, and we thought we could do this, like I just said, in lieu of fireworks, keeping them there. We want to include all of our neighbors. We're encouraging folks, businesses to have tables, have tents, sell whatever they want to sell, and just really be a part of this as a true community event.
So any further public comment about this?
We need it after this fire.
Then we will close the public hearing. Sounds like an excellent thing, so I guess take a motion to,
I'll make a motion that we grant the Grand Block Promotional Association a request for the common consumption area, which would be the 1200 block of Green Street on the 4th of July, to operate from 5 until 11 p.m.
Do we have a second?
And I'll second.
And a second from trustee McKay. Any other? Okay. Then roll call, please, Sarah.
Trustee Wiegert,
Yes?
trustee Decay,
Yes.
trustee Renowden,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Tukey.
Yes. So I get to say go forth and prosper, guys. It'll be a fun day. Okay, so now we're down to number 9, which is new business.
Ask for Molly back.
Oh, she's coming. Okay, you guys are going to go through this.
Oh, can I speak to that very quickly?
Yes.
Totally different subject, but I don't know how we could do this, but could we get, I don't know, a sidewalk sale on that day? Thinking about how we can really keep people engaged, maybe getting, I don't know, besides just entertainment districts through the day, having tables outside with clearance merchandise, anything like that.
Because we could pass a resolution to make that day like, okay to vend and hawk on the street. I don't know, just an idea, because I know everybody is suffering enormously. So, I don't know, something for next meeting, oh, well, actually, no, that'd be too late, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's the 9th. Yeah,
If I may, I know that Blair Runyon did something similar to that when she was in the events position, and Michelle just said it was done through a special events permit. We could possibly do that at an accelerated rate with an emergency approval from the board.
We will have a meeting on Friday, or correct? Regular meeting,
Friday.
or Thursday?
The staff meeting, or the staff.
Or special
Yeah,
meeting?
it's a work session.
But it's a work session, yeah.
Can we
But
have
we
a
could
special
put
meeting
something
after that?
Something rather than that. I would have put it on there earlier, but I started thinking about a lot, in the last couple of days while I was at CML, disaster economic recovery, and my brain just started clicking, and I really wanted to make sure that we offer that. I don't know.
We should definitely do a little research on that, with Mark and Bill and see what the planning and zoning codes allow for, and, yeah.
There is a no hawking, but
Right, there, we have specifically
Yeah.
hockey
I know.
ordinance, so,
So what can we do to get it changed for just that day?
crazy days, that's what you should.
Everybody needs it.
yeah, we'll try to think creative in that and come up with something before Wednesday.
How do we notify businesses?
Maybe through the chamber, a mass email, and then anybody that we don't contact, go through Lisa as well. Just do a little bit of a joint mailing.
Newspaper.
Yeah, newspaper, what else do we have? Facebook. Let's be creative, let's get some money in everybody's coffers. And once somebody puts it out there, it'll go. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's a cool idea.
Okay, so we're down to new business, and under A, we have emergency ordinance 2018-06, which is our temporary employee RV parking. It's the one that we put out every year, and every year we open it up because it has a sunset clause. So it's the same as it's been every year, and we'll see if people actually utilize it or not. But it's good to have it there, I think.
I think it's a nice thing to offer the business owners and the people they employ. We're just here on a student basis.
I utilize it personally for an employee of mine last summer, so. Okay, so if someone would like to entertain a motion?
I'll move to, adopt emergency ordinance 2018-6, temporary employee RV parking.
I'll give a second from trustee Renata. Any other discussion from the board? Okay, then our roll call, please, Sarah.
Trustee Renowden,
Yes.
trustee Decay,
Yes.
trustee Wiegert,
Yes.
trustee Barella,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lashley,
Yes.
Mayor Tukey.
Yes. down to B, which is the two items, the next two items are items that we talked about at the beginning with the library. So we have the library planning grant acceptance. And then we have the DOLA EIAF planning grant, library planning grant approval. So, Mr. Rose?
Madam Mayor, I just have to read so that the trustees know. The State Historical Grant Fund application for $35,000. Written into the grant is key staff members for the project include, and I'll read this, Mark Revis, Planning Director. Mark is a licensed architect in the state of Montana with a pending reciprocity in the state of Colorado. He has spent the majority of his 35-year career working diligently to advocate for and preserve the cultural resources of Butte, Montana National Historic Landmark District, and has extensive practical experience with historic restoration projects. Mark will work with the project consultant on developing the construction drawings and associated documents. I'm written into the grant. If I'm to be taken out of the acceptance, I need to be taken out of the grant. I think that invalidates the grant. I can tell you that I was put into this grant. I didn't agree with that because of working with the consultant and developing construction drawings. That means I'm practicing architecture, so I did, and I am a licensed architect in the state of Colorado. I was waiting on further discussions on that. So I think you have to consider both the ramifications of pulling me out of the grant that was submitted and accepted, and also the complexities associated with accepting the grant. So.
Ms. Hamilton?
I do want to point out also that one of the parameters for accepting the grant is having the approval and cooperation of the owners of the building. So the acceptance of the grant is contingent on the library board, being that they are the owners of the building. However, I do think that if you could approve the acceptance of this grant with that caveat that that sort of an operating agreement and the cooperation of the library board is contingent on that acceptance. And that will also allow us to go ahead and apply, assuming if you accept the one, then you can accept the other, for the DOLA grant. So we can get that process going. And it's not gonna, it's still gonna be contingent on you meeting with the library board and working out those issues. But it doesn't have to necessarily, or table it.
I'd just like to say, as far as discussion, that I think that it's important that that we kind of follow a good process, and that if people from the library board feel that we've cheated them their process, then they're likely to come back at us with more. So I think it's important that we do give them their chance to say something as part of the process, but I fully understand that Mr. Reeves, you're the man for the job to go through this grant as well. I hope that we can just find reason in the middle ground.
Madam Mayor, Madam Mayor, I would ask, I don't think I can get my lawyer here on time, so I'd ask that you record the meeting and that all the written information is forwarded to me so I can contact my lawyer. And I think I have a good ability for a slander and a libel claim against the library board. What's been taking place so far.
I guess I'm asking with the pleasure. Do you want to table it right here, wait until we have a meeting on Thursday? Like I said, I will not be there because I need to go to the COG meeting that Mr. Feinberg is going to be at, and then we need, people to make sure that they report.
But do we move forward with the contingencies put in place, an operating agreement and some other, whatever, other documentation we need that we move forward on these 2 grants.
Do we need the operating agreement to get the grants, correct? Is that
We
what you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we need the permission of the library board. They need to sign off on the acceptance of the grant as well.
And that meeting was Thursday at 3, and then our other meeting is, sorry.
Maybe the Wednesday?
Yeah, no, our Wednesday meeting, right, is the staff meeting, and that's where we were gonna move, if we possibly could, some special event stuff, so that it adds a day late and a dollar short. I don't know,
That's
I wanna
prior
hear,
to our.
yeah, it's prior to the, I wanna hear the library board out personally. I don't know anything that's going on, so, yeah, if they're that vehement, via letters and so on, I'd like to hear it. That's my opinion, I don't know.
It sounds to me like we don't have much to approve if everything is contingent upon, approval of the library board and making sure that Mr. Rivas is part of the grant is the registered agent or the authorized person in charge of the grant. It sounds like we don't have much to approve.
Trustee
Thank you. I agree with what the other 2 trustees have said. It sounds like it was just miscommunication amongst staff and the library board. Clearly accidental. I'm not sure that approving this grant tonight is really helpful in the situation. I would agree that we need to go to the library board and talk to them.
And do we then get together for an
emergency meeting.
after the grant?
I think we should.
I mean, if we do need to get this done quickly, right after we.
Will we have a quorum to approve that on Thursday, I guess?
Well, you should have, went to work session. No, it's still regular library board meeting.
But I think we have to notify them, don't we have to?
We'd have to notify the public, wouldn't we? Yeah.
And you couldn't take action at the library.
At their meeting,
No,
exactly,
we have
so
to
we
return.
wouldn't have, yeah, we'd have to return back here.
Which is why earlier I was suggesting that you hold a special meeting and bring the library board here for a special meeting while you're discussing these things so that you can make some decisions.
Well, I think
But if you want to stay, it might be more prudent for you to start with a work session like that. It's gonna take, it probably will take more than 1 meeting for you to come to some sort of consensus, I'm guessing. Mayor Fulton?
I think given the circumstances and Mr. Rivas' desire to have legal representation there as well, it's unwise of us to vote on it right after hearing it as well. I think we need to schedule a separate meeting and give Mr. Rivas' attorney and Mr. Rivas time to review, set that meeting as well before we decide on anything.
I think with all this being said, though, we all realize the dire situation that we have here with the library. The utmost importance that it is to take the appropriate steps to mitigate the issues and problems that we have on hand. We see other close communities across the state on the West Slope that are making big changes, getting grant-funded projects, and this is something that could really help out the community.
So we're gonna table it until after our first meeting with the library board, and then what would we communicate via email through potentially Michelle then to coordinate something secondary after that meeting? And then you line copy so that way we don't reply all, and it wouldn't be, an open meeting at that point? Okay.
But it may be wise that we get together after we've met with the library board.
That's what I was saying, she would have to coordinate that.
Right, but not, I was just thinking of maybe just via email. I think we need to get together again and discuss.
Yeah, but she could coordinate that, because if we all directly did it, we'd have a quorum, and then we're violating the sunset laws, or sundown.
It's Sundance.
Sundown.
And I will let you know that, when Mr. Feinberg took over, hearing me from the library, as chair.
How can he do that?
I thought that was a statutory requirement.
Well, there is, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the chair of the library is at the meeting.
Oh,
And with everything going on in the background, I also removed myself from it too. So he took over.
so we haven't had any town representation since when?
Yes, you have, you've had just,
Okay, so
yeah.
just, all right, so that's just been since the, all right.
So there, just to give you that little information, so when you hear things, keep an open mind. Okay, so we're gonna table these two. Sarah, sorry.
Well, I think that staff has been working under this assumption since this happened, and I think it's false when it's stated that we don't care, because we have been trying very, very hard for almost a year and a half to pull something together. And that means like a quick grant that we did not receive because we weren't fully prepared for that grant. Now here's this one. But maybe we're just making the assumption that the library board, or that it is the town's responsibility, and that the library board wants our help, because that's not exactly the sort of exchange that we've been having with the library board. Maybe they don't want our help. Maybe we're overstepping and we're taking a responsibility that isn't ours. And so I guess that's what we need from you as the board, is to say, otherwise, what's the 30,000-foot view, you know? Is this our job? Is this the town's responsibility or not? We don't own it.
Trustee Brewer?
So since this has been ongoing for 2 years, as far as the problem goes, mitigation has only been a year.
The damage is old.
Potential- Oh, yeah.
15 years old.
Oh,
I mean, it's, yeah, this is not 2 years of damage. This is
No,
a
it's
decade
2
of
years
damage.
Of high levels that
Mhm.
are beyond usage. And so mitigation, you're saying, has only been
Well,
underway for
about a year and a half,
about a year and a half? Okay.
maybe.
So,
I don't know how long Chris was
How
on
many
it.
joint sessions prior to me getting on the board was there with the library board to make sure that this was all on the table?
What did you say? Did you raise your hand?
No,
Oh.
I just wanted to note that I was 100% volunteered. I was after hours, on weekends. I produced all the documents. I gave them to staff. Staff pulled them together for the one grant. I was removed as a volunteer, and then I was required to be part of this grant
Based on
under my objections, as that I was going to be practicing architecture, and I had to become a licensed architect in Colorado to avoid liability. So I am not pleased with this situation, and I'll state it again, I am not pleased with this situation. I think you heard it from my spouse, the level of stress that caused.
And to answer your question, maybe 2 or 3. I mean, if even, not many joint sessions between the board and the, but staff has attended their meetings. I've attended a couple of their board meetings as
So
well.
it's mostly a breakdown, everybody thinks it's mostly a breakdown and a massive breakdown in communication?
I think it's probably a long-standing cultural dynamic that is nothing to do with any of us sitting at this table. And sure, there might be some breakdown, and I've seen it over and over again. There's some dynamic there that comes long before me or long before anybody else here, and so hopefully that can be overcome. But it may not. Maybe they don't want the town board or staff to do this project, and I don't know what we say if that's the case. Of course it's an asset, of course it needs to be done, but how do you get past that, you know? But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say that, speaking with several members of town staff about their experience being in that library, it's really clear that town staff values that as a resource of town. It's a beautiful old building, and there aren't many operational Carnegie Mellon libraries left. And I think that it's come across very clearly to me in my discussion with Mr. Rivas, Mr. Bove, Mr. McDougall, and other people from the Public Works Department as well.
Mhm.
That everybody's very vested in seeing that building restored as a vital part of our community. But if we can't make an agreement with the people who are in charge of it, then that's not good, because town staff has been instructed to put a lot of resources into this now at this point, and that's really a shame, but also just we really appreciate you guys' work on
on item C, I wrote that grant. It's the mayor to sign it. So I'll look at the quality of what I can do and take that into consideration.
So what is the bottom line pleasure of the board? Do you want to table these two, having the meeting on Thursday, and then go from there?
Yeah.
Yes? Yes. And then can we instruct staff after our meeting to, get a consensus about when we can meet again? Okay. Okay. All right, so then we're gonna table B and C. Okay, so now we're down to D, which is the consideration of volunteer employment contract for Greg Schulte to serve as a volunteer interim town administrator. And
We're gonna get Mr. Schulte on the phone?
Enter your conference number followed by the pound key. Please enter the conference password. You are currently the only person in this conference.
Hello?
Mr. Schulte, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello?
hello? Greg, this is Chris Kibbe. You're here, and I'm sorry it took so long, but we had a bunch of other things. So you're here in front of the board and the staff members that are here. So,
Excuse me, but I can barely hear you. You're very faint.
Do you have a microphone or no? No microphone?
Yeah, put it on, maybe on the table. We'll move you in closer here in a second.
okay, Greg, can you hear us now?
Yes, that's a little bit better.
So we have in front of us your resume that you sent. You have trustee Weigert, you have trustee Renowden, trustee Decay, Mayor Pro Tem Lashley, trustee Barella, and then myself here. And trustee Molina is still out of town, so he's not at the meeting tonight.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to talk to you over the phone.
Okay, so we're hoping that, that you can also stop in sometime and meet face to face the different members of the town board. And I know you did stop in and talk to some of the people, some of the staff members that were available the day that you were here. And I appreciate you coming in and talking with them. So, are there any questions from the board for Mr. Schulte?
Well, at the CNL, I was told to take him if he's volunteering, so.
Your name is out there, Greg.
With high regard to.
And now again, what day would you, or what time frame, or when will you possibly be available?
Well, I might be able to come later on this week. I do have a meeting in Durango obviously, Fourth of July falls on the 4th, but I'd have to see how that would work out, whether I just would stay and spend 4th of July in Fullerton, or if I would come back and then return back to Fullerton on the Thursday. I'm just a little, I have to, I'm also on the hospital board here in Pagosa Springs, and our hospital has a float in our 4th of July, and I'm supposed to be on that float, but I might be able to be up in Fullerton instead. But generally, basically the first 2 weeks of July, but I might be able to try and be up there the latter part of this week if possible.
That sounds good.
Well, thank you for showing interest in our town. We really need you.
Well, I've always enjoyed my time in Fullerton, and I've always had a good working relationship with several of the folks there. And if I can give service to you for, unfortunately, a short period of time, I'd like to do what I can to help. I just want to be of service to you.
Great. Well, we appreciate that. And I'm sorry for the pregnant pauses we're having here. It'd be different if you were sitting across the table from us.
Yes, and that's not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Okay, then, thank you for being on the phone. And
no problem.
Then we will see you probably Thursday sometime. Great.
Yes, and Mayor, if you don't mind, maybe if I could, or if you could call me, or I could call you to kind of give some recommendations for some lodging up in Fullerton, that would be helpful. And I know it's probably pretty busy during that summer starting, and but anyway, yeah, if I could get some recommendations on that, that would be great.
Okay, we'll put out notices and see if we can come up with some time frames and some places for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you, Greg. We'll let you go, and we will talk to you soon then.
Okay, very good. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'll look forward to meeting all of you later on. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Sometimes it's going to be really busy. And then maybe he would be here for our library meeting.
Trying to stay away.
Okay, so we probably need to have some sort of a motion or consensus about consideration of his employment contract.
It's a volunteer employment contract.
Because he can't be an interim town administrator as such during this time.
But he is asking for a per diem for lodging.
Yeah, it's like
Yes.
That seems very reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, I so move to accept the, I lost my name. Give me to accept the volunteer employment contract for Greg Schulte to serve as the interim town administrator.
So we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion from the board? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Wiegert?
Yes.
Trustee DeKay?
Yes.
Trustee Renaudin?
Yes.
Trustee Barella?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lashley?
Yes.
Mayor Tukey?
Yes. Okay, so, I guess, if we can check and see if there's, during the dates that he's looking at being here, possibly, seeing if there's openings, any of that. And actually, we will probably see him on Thursday, he's usually there for the luncheon and the meeting. So I guess, Michelle, if you can, you and Lisa can get your ears on, and we'll see. Okay, so number 10 is public comments. Do we have any public comment from all of you that are still sitting here, smiling, or not smiling, or half asleep? Okay, then thank you for sticking it out with us. And
One thing I forgot to add or ask about, is there some way we can cut down on the size of the packets? I mean,
yeah,
it's a lot of work for these guys to put together for one thing, and it's a lot of paper.
This thing works great.
Yeah, well, good for you.
Well, you can't learn how to use it if you don't ever.
I know how to use it. You be my age and talk to somebody your age someday.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still on a flip phone, so I don't embrace
Well,
technology, but I
anything
do like to
like
save
Dale
things.
Garland, that's the same thing every time, right? So would it be just plausible just to get the front page of the document that actually show it versus having to put everything in, unless there's changes?
We've had some conversation about how to shorten the events piece of things because it is, I don't know that it's necessary for you all to see all of that. I've already talked to the sheriff, the public works director, you know, EMS, blah, 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 blah. Everybody that needs to approve it has looked at those things. So I don't know that you need to
So
see
what
all
if
of the
there is
nitty-gritty
no-
details.
What
so.
if there's a checklist from you that's submitted with just like the front copy?
We do that with the alcohol. Like, you know how when we started, Michelle drafted like for liquor renewals, you just get the single sheet now.
Yeah.
And that's what we were thinking about for events. It would be much easier for everyone, probably you as well. It's a lot.
Well, yeah, because the people to read a lot of information are sheriffs, EMS, and so on, because that's the ones that will be working in tandem, because that's when I was doing it, obviously more off record now. But for my own, that's what I did. I already had it reviewed with Bruce and the whole OEM group, we had it done, so.
Okay, before you guys leave, also, we're gonna do the work session with the staff on Wednesday over at Kendall Fountain. And all you have to do is just bring something to drink.
What time is that?
Bring something to drink? Yeah.
No. How somebody would party against
Something to drink with your sandwiches.
Vote? Can we vote?
And bring the staff too, just bring something to drink. And everything else is gonna be. So it is.
Sorry. This was